Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Rejuvenated Women, Impeccable Health for High Performing Women. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Swenson Ridley, and today we're going to be talking about something that I have struggled with and continue to struggle with, and I'm guessing many of you struggle with, and that is being pig-headed and stubborn when it comes to our bodies and our health. And where this is coming from, this is somewhat of a follow up on an episode I did last month, I believe, just talking about finding the silver lining in some of the crappy things that can happen to us sometimes. But what inspired this train of thought is I, about 2 weeks ago, confirmed something that I knew, which was that I had retorn my wrist after having surgery on it 2 years ago. And I knew exactly when I did it and exactly how I did it. And I had just been too stubborn to let go. I've even shared on this show about retiring from chiropractic and that I, had recognized the need to really move on from that. But a part of me is really hung on and, love for my patients and the people I've cared for. And, I've for the last 10 years been a chiropractor in Fairbanks, Alaska, and everyone knows me as that. And I'm one of the only people who adjusts little kids. And so, I'd had this really hard time letting go. And as a result, I just kept stressing my wrist more and more and more. And finally, I think it was in January or February, there was a moment where I was like, oh crap. And indeed, I confirmed on an MRI that I had actually torn it again. And so I find myself back to, wearing a wrist brace and needing to be careful and feeling like I'm weak and not wanting to make it any worse than it already is and trying to figure out what my options are from here because I'd like to have full use and function of my arm and my hand. But this past weekend, we were in Minnesota picking up my son. He's been there for about 3 weeks visiting his dad. And we did this super fun thing. We went to the Great Wolf Lodge, and it's like a kid centered hotel with all the stuff, right? Water parks, and there's a bowling alley and a climbing wall and an obstacle course and this like virtual reality game kind of thing that you play like all over the hotel. And it was all great and fun, but my wrist was so sore, and I found myself, telling my son that I couldn't do things with him like climb the climbing wall and do the obstacle course because I just hurt and I didn't, I'm at the point where I don't want to make it worse again. But I also recognize I spent so much of my life in that position. And, it may not be a physical ailment for you. Some of you, it's like maybe you need to let go of running or let go of, a sport or something that hasn't served your body well over the years, or maybe it's a relationship, or maybe it's a job or a career. You know, there are things that keep us stuck and keep us from fully healing and keep us from experiencing life at our fullest. And so there's kind of two prongs with this. One is recognizing what truly isn't good and healthy for us to continue doing and being willing to taking out, whatever stubborn identity thing. For me, it's always about some form of identity and, satisfaction and just like it being a part of who I love and something I love about myself. But so for many of you, I'm going to guess that that's also the case. But it's being willing to let go of something that's been to embrace what can be and really be able to create, the life where, if for using my example, like I can climb the climbing wall and do the obstacle course and swim around and not like be in loads of pain afterwards. I do live with pain every single day in my wrist, so I think it's just like at a sometimes knowing something puts us at an aggravated level, and the process of getting that MRI aggravated me a lot, I will say, because I had to dig a needle through there and there was too much arthritis and it was just really bad. But the point is, we have to be willing to make a change and do something new. And I know for me, I've been willing to do some things, to take steps towards it, but it's hard and it's scary to really jump full on into letting go of a past version of ourselves or a past thing and moving into something new. But until you really jump solidly with both feet, I've had this conversation with several of my clients over the past couple of weeks, those dealing with careers they hate, or, something that they just keep doing over and over again, knowing that it's only a matter of time before it ends badly or makes them worse or, causes a problem. We have to be willing to break that cycle, because you can eat great and do all the things and take care of yourself, or say you're doing all the right things, and still have something that maybe isn't serving you and your body in the best way that it should, and it will keep holding you back from truly having impeccable health or being able to do the things that you want to do and what's important to you. Obviously, being able to be physically active with my son is something that is important to me. And now I'm at a point where I have to heal again, and I'm looking at all of those options and figuring out what I'm going to do, but I am really clear that this is the last time I'm going to have to deal with this if I have anything to say about it, barring like some crazy thing that I have no control of. I have control over choosing whether or not I adjust people and do it in a way that I know it has the potential to hurt me and all of those things. I have control over that stuff. So this is my invitation to you to join me on really taking a solid look at your life. And if your health isn't where you want it to be, whether it's physically, whether it's emotionally, whether it's all of those things, if you have nagging injuries, if you have chronic problems, if you have stuff that just consistently keeps you from living the quality of life that you want to live, now's really the time to look at what is keeping you stuck there. And what are the things you need to do in order to heal? Like, I finally took some proactiveness. I've been proactive this year with my health. I feel really proud of that. But, I went and followed up with those who did my surgery and my rehab, and they suggested that we do another MRI. So I did all the stuff. I took all the steps. Next step is consulting with a surgeon and looking into some other alternatives that might help stimulate the tissue to heal. But it's time to stop, really look at the things that have you stuck where you're at, make a plan, and start taking the steps towards doing something about it, and then doing something differently whenever you get to the point of truly healing. So hopefully this makes sense. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, but I wanted to, this has been on my mind a lot because I've been back in that place of feeling limited and honestly, I'd never fully gotten out of it, but it's much more, I'm much more aware of it now that I have actual confirmation, like, hey, yeah, you tore your wrist again and you need to be careful and you probably need to wear a brace and all of these things. And so I've been both frustrated and maybe a little down, even though I knew that it was reality. And I've also just been thinking about and processing it, like, okay, what does it actually take for us to stop doing the stuff that hurt us and get to a point where we can truly heal and be healthy and, maybe one day get back to some of that stuff, but in a different way that doesn't hurt us again, right? It's all about figuring out how we got to where we are and what we need to do differently going forward. And then the last piece of this, I talked about the silver linings and things, and shared a story of this was just a couple episodes ago, but if you missed it, I'll try to put a link to it in the show notes and figure out which episode it was. But one of my stepson's friends he was a wrestler, could have played Division I college or gone to college on a scholarship for wrestling, and was invited to the national team and all this stuff, but he broke his back at 18. He's now 19. And just the way he was able to turn all of that around emotionally was so incredible to watch. And I know for myself and so many of us, especially us overachieving, high-performing women, we want to push through it. We want to ignore it. We want to pretend like it's not there and just assume that it's going to get better. And that's not how things work when it comes to our bodies and to our health. And eventually it catches up to us. And, ideally it's not going to totally derail you. So this is my invitation. If you're listening to this and you're like not at the point where I'm at right now, or you haven't been willing to look in the mirror and actually face reality, that you go ahead and do that and really use the next couple months of summer when it's nice out and it's easier to deal with some health stuff to take that on. And that could mean getting in touch with me to talk about hormones and gut health and maybe anything in that realm that you're dealing with, or it could be assembling the team of people that you need to deal with a chronic injury, or to deal with your mental health, or to deal with that you hate your job and need a career change, or to deal with maybe getting out of a relationship that just is not serving you. All of those things apply here. So as always, I'm happy to help and support. Reach out to me if you need anything at all. Dr. Alex at emergentwomenih.com, and we will see you next week.